New season is underway. We've got fun things to talk about. So let's talk about those. Well, folks, welcome to the Baseball Brewhaha. We're recording the show after opening day. Adam, did you get to watch any opening day? Did you pick up highlights, takeaways, anything from opening day?
I got to watch most of the Diamondbacks home opener against the Cubs. Was not the Cubs opening day game, 'cause they
Right.
had played two in Japan.
That's right.
But for the Diamondbacks, it was
Mm-hmm.
watching my guy Corbin Carroll, 1 for 3, hit by
Mm-hmm.
pitch, doing his thing, causing
Mm-hmm.
chaos. Mariners, big win.
Mm-hmm. Come
Didn't
from
get to
behind.
watch it, but I was following the box scores.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to watch parts of the game, including got the kids in bed about 10 o'clock. I got to sit down and watch Randy Rosarena and Jorge Polanco put it over the wall and Andres Munoz close it out. So it was a nice opening day experience for me. Uh, so we got fun things to talk about. Actually, not so much related to opening day. We're back on Zoom here. Better fit for where we're working on right now. So I get to use my background again, which I'm excited about. Adam, I mean, from my angle, it looks good. How's it looking from your angle?
It looks good. I'm feeling some nostalgia from when we very first
Hmm.
launched this whole deal,
Yeah. What
turning back the clock.
Yeah, so folks, if you're not aware, well, you probably aren't. But very first couple of shows, we were so I took a picture of this. I got this saved as a background to use. But I for the first couple, I had this is in my like office room. I had my computer sitting on top of a laundry basket with this in the background, and that's how we rolled the first couple of shows. So, throwing it back, and I mean, our technology hasn't improved a whole lot. We got
Yep.
microphones and headphones, but other than that, we're still rocking real basic laptop, the whole deal. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to have that in the background there. And then this is not a baseball thing, but Adam, I was curious. Have you heard of Joey
No, I
Coffee
don't know this.
Alternative? So I was introduced to it by one of one of my coworkers. It's a coffee alternative, and it's got like cacao and different mushrooms in it, cinnamon, um, ashwagandha, all the stuff. Um,
I don't know what ashwagandha is.
it's just healthy things, you know.
Okay.
It's got a fifth of the caffeine of regular coffee. And I just one day I was like, I don't know, I'm not feeling the coffee anymore. And I thought, I'll try this. We had it at the office and I asked my coworker, can I try some here? And he let me try it. I've been hooked, bro. I'm hooked. I'm not gonna say it doesn't. It has cocoa powder. It's not like a chocolatey drink, but here's how I would describe it, texture wise, and it depends on how thick or thin you like it, but it's a bit like a cross between the texture of hot chocolate and like the taste of coffee, something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And but anyway, like the alertness and the energy is real. It's real, and it's no jittery business. So if you're out there, you're looking for an alternative. Uh, I Joey,
Maybe a little
Adam.
bit like a cowboy mocha. You had one of those?
I don't know if I have. Maybe.
It's the like the Swiss Miss packet.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of mixing it with the hot water, you mix it with the coffee.
Coffee. Yeah, sure. But again, it's not sweet. You can add sweetener, but it has cocoa powder, but it's not sweet. It does not
Yeah,
have
okay.
sugar, chocolate, milk chocolate, or whatever. It's just good. So anyway, Adam, next time we hang out, I'll introduce you
Okay.
to the
I'm
Joey.
guessing what Joey's like $14 a bag there.
So um the price per cup is 75 cents.
Okay.
So it's a little more expensive than getting a big thing of coffee or whatever. But so this bag 48, is it $48? Yeah, $48 for 60 servings.
Whoa.
So
Whoa.
so it was like, basically we're doing like it's equivalent of like $20 a month. So, you know, there you go. Anything, bro, any cheat codes, any hacks that we need to be aware of from your end?
Well, if you're T-Mobile subscriber,
Mm,
T-Mobile plan
yeah.
prior to April 1st, you got to go to the T-Mobile Tuesday app.
Mm-hmm.
Get your free 1 year subscription of MLB TV. Get on it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If you're T-Mobile, do it. If you want to go cheat code on this one, go from T-Mobile to Mint Mobile. Depends on the
Mhm.
features you want. Depends on what you want. But my wife and I went slim down, $400 a year, and then you can pay for. I'm paying for MLB TV, but it's less than paying
Less total
less
total
total.
cost.
Yeah. So if you just want something real basic, just gets the job done, data, you know, the stuff, just the basics.
This is
But
this
great.
is why people come to this channel.
Yeah.
They want to hear about the deals.
The hacks. The
Yeah.
hacks. There we go. So, all right. Enough. Enough. It is time. It is time to talk about the things that matter. I've been reading W.P. Kinsella, The Thrill of the Grass.
Mhm.
I mentioned this last week. It's got some good stories in it. Some of them I don't care for. Um, that's how it goes with short stories. Now, here's the one we need to talk about. It's called, this one is called um, The Night Manny Moda Tied the Record. Okay. So
Okay.
this guy goes to um, Dodgers game and Manny Moda ties a record. I think it's for pinch hits or something like that. And he's sitting there in the seat, and this guy sits next to him, random guy, cool, whatever, strike up a conversation. The setting of this is 5 days. Is it 5 days? Something in that neighborhood after Thurman Munson died in a plane crash. Okay. Setting the scene a little bit here.
Okay.
So Yankees fans are obviously grieving, but he was, um, it was a shock to the baseball world at that time. And so the premise of the story here is uh is that this guy is essentially like I don't know if you'd say he's an angel per se, like a messenger of sorts for sure. Comes and sits next to this guy, and he basically talks to him about, hey, this guy's a random fan, random guy. Would you trade your life to bring Thurman Munson back? And
Hmm.
he's like, well, how does that work? He's like, well, they basically sort of like whitewash all of history for the last 5 days. and then it's like, it's like nothing ever happened, and this random guy just died in his car or whatever he did, you know. Okay. So, first thoughts. What do you have any initial thoughts about sort of the premise of that kind of a story?
Well, my initial thought is just about there is a maybe like an underlying question of sort of like the value of a person's life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so in this story, we don't know anything about this random person's life.
Well, I mean, you get little pieces. He has, I think he's got a family. He's got, so, but you know, in a sense, he's kind of like you and me. Like, we're known to the people around us, but
Hmm.
I don't have a name, despite us having this massive YouTube following. Um, we don't have a name nationally or anything. We're just a couple of random guys, we're not random to the people who know us and love us, but to the United States at large, we're two random people. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, so that's kind of the sense. It's just a guy. It's a guy. Works a job. He's a guy.
Yeah.
Actually, he's a writer, I think. Oh yeah, he's a writer, so he's kind of like trying to convince the guy. He's like, it was kind of comical. He's like trying to convince the guy. He's like, "Hey, I'm a writer," and the guy's like, "Yeah, I haven't read any of your stuff." So, but um, so anyway, the obviously you can kind of see where I'm going with this. That the tug of war here is, does that guy give up his life so Thurman Munson can come back? So you think about it, like Thurman Munson to me, it doesn't really mean, I mean, who he is doesn't, I wasn't alive during that time. So, you know, in a modern time, in our lifetime, is that Griffey? Is that Shohei? Is that Griffey? Is that Judge? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so question, if Shohei died in a plane wreck, I mean, that would be devastating to baseball, the baseball world. He's
Yeah.
beloved. He's so well liked. He's a generational player. Would you trade places, give your life up so that Shohei could live?
That's that's such a bizarre proposition.
Yeah, I mean that's the story,
It's
though. That's
like,
the story.
I mean, there would have to be other circumstances beyond he's a famous baseball player, you know?
Right. Yeah. So you think about like the cultural impact, though. So you think about like, say, like a Michael Jordan,
Okay.
Kobe, maybe somebody, or maybe LeBron, maybe Tiger Woods.
Uh-huh.
Somebody's had a, I mean, Tiger Woods before all the stuff, but somebody who's had a massive cultural impact. I mean, Shohei has in many ways.
Yeah.
Somebody who's had a massive cultural impact. They talked about in here like Martin Luther King, um, and like, basically saying that like somebody was discussed talked about Martin Luther King, and they either didn't do it in time or whatever it was. Didn't work out.
Hmm.
uh and so, you know, is there Athletes are a little tougher because it's a little bit like how how much impact do they really have? But some other beloved cultural figure.
Well, I mean, this is where like sort of like the philosophy of it comes in because like for it
Yeah.
to matter,
Hmm.
you like or for to like to really know or understand that you would have to in some way be able to predict that their life is going to have the type of impact that it did.
Yeah, sure. Right. Yes. But like in this case, it's like some, messenger figure that, you know, you would presume has knowledge that if if Thurman Munson's life were to resume, that it's going to have whatever impact it will in the future. Does that make sense?
And that's known to this person as well.
No,
Like,
no, it's not known to the person.
okay,
It's
so
basically
then I
it's
mean
like you're trusting this messenger figure.
well, the person would have to have some sort of sense,
Well, I mean, so in this case
right?
with the Thurman, so yes, but like in this case, like with Thurman Munson, is like the sort of the assumption, and like we may need some help here with from our dad or somebody with a little bit of Thurman Munson um context, because I don't like is making this feel like he was just universally beloved and like great player, great person. And I don't know his story that well. So so it's essentially like what you're saying is kind of assumed in the story. Like he's going to continue to have an impact in some fashion, whatever that looks like. I don't know, but he's going to have some kind of impact.
Yeah, gosh, this is this is like a also a sort of a reflection of culture type of question, and a reflection of values type of question because
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
very much sort of like um, a Western, almost like capitalistic approach to um, this question. And
Mm-hmm.
I studied philosophy in college, and there's philosophies built around this question
Mm-hmm.
of like the value of a life,
Mm-hmm.
and the value, whether the value of an action is should be based on its intent, on its outcome, what's the value based on. And
Mm-hmm.
so in this case, we're presuming we're living in a worldview that um, some sort of impact on lives, like Shohei, for example,
Mm-hmm.
is a really good modern example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shohei inspires 50 million Japanese kids, you know, to do amazing things.
Yeah.
And there's something culturally in the US that says the impact of 50 million lives is
Is
worth more
mm-hmm.
than the impact that we have on maybe like the 12 people who we're closest to.
Right. Yeah.
And even if you could like quantify, like I- I'm in education, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so like I interact the with a bunch of people in ways that it would be impossible to know what type of impact I'm having.
Yeah, right.
And so it's like, okay, I can take the 50 million kids who said Shohei's amazing, or my life as an educator, where you can't take
Hmm.
really any amount of kids and say, yeah, that's because of that guy. But which one's more worthwhile? I don't know.
Hmm.
You know, that's an odd place to be
Yeah.
morally and ethically.
Yes. Yeah. Certainly from our vantage point, completely. There's no way to like, there's no way to make that call. Like, there just isn't. I mean, I guess you could, yeah, if you're just looking at it strictly from like, well, Shohei's beloved by he's known and beloved by all these people, and I'm just a guy. Yeah, that's yeah, you bring up such a great point because even like I hadn't really thought about this, but even sort of like the proposition of that. So let's assume this individual is a messenger, and let's just you know let's just say it's from God, whoever God looks like. Um, like that'll scramble your categories. Like, and for me, with like uh my my belief system that would say that God loves all people like equally, to send a
Hmm.
messenger and say like, hey, you, would you, you, you know, maybe insignificant individual, trade places for this significant individual. That's an odd, that'll scramble it for you.
Yeah.
The proposition's even being offered. Um, but yeah, it's a fascinating thing because it does. I mean, in one sense, it does also like bring into this question of like, I think you were kind of alluding to this as well, but like how do you judge what's in the how do you one judge what's in the interest of the greater good, like the greatest amount of good? How do you measure that? And then how do you determine that like at that point in time that the decision that is made is in fact in the interest of the greater good, right? Because what if you make that decision and Thurman Munson becomes an alcoholic and ruins his life?
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
That's right. So you don't know.
yeah, yeah, and so I think probably baked in, and maybe not. Maybe I'm just reading into it that you assume that he's going to have a positive impact, but I think in that story there's a lot of like, you know, you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
from my perspective, the way you're telling the story,
Mhm.
it's like a no-brainer to me. But maybe I'm missing some details. But this is like, bro, don't take the off. Like why? Why would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, in my yeah, from my side, for like a professional athlete, like I mean, we've seen in our lifetime there have been professional athletes who have died.
Hmm.
I never even once would have considered like, oh, if only I could trade places with that person. Like it's sad and tragic, obviously, but like
the trading would have to be altruistic, not
Hmm.
based on value,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's no person qualified to make that type of judgment.
Hmm.
And in order to make that judgment, you'd have to come to the conclusion that your life, your own life, is worth less and will forever be worth less,
Hmm.
to the point that not only would it be worth less, but my existence would be detrimental to like the world. That is like super depressing.
Yeah. That takes you a place you don't want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this whole thing of like, to your point, you're saying it very well, but it's this whole thing of what is the value of a life, and not just a life, but each individual person. And kind of what you're saying about the Western value of like this ideology of assigning a value to somebody, based on their impact and all this other stuff. But like, I just think about like, if I just like disappeared, died or whatever, like my family would be utterly devastated.
Hmm.
And at this point in time, like, I don't know what they're going to do with their lives. I don't know what that's going to look like. And it could be something that is, you know, they could be inventors, they could be doctors, they could be teachers, they could, and so my impact on them over, that then goes down to their next generation, next. Who's to say that me being the best father that I can be doesn't, you know 57 generations down the line have
Hmm.
some massive impact. Like, you can't know that. So
Or even fewer.
yeah.
What if one of your kids grows up
Hmm.
to cure cancer,
Hmm.
but if you opted not to live, they sink into deep depression and
Hmm.
never realize their potential?
Yeah.
Like you would have no way of knowing that. And
Hmm.
if you went to the future, if there was a way to go to the future and see both options,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
like it would be a no-brainer if like to society, if you could, if everyone could see ahead and know that your kid was going to cure cancer, they'd like Shohei's like out. Peace, buddy. Sorry.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 So anyway, we're not gonna, I mean, I think I agree with you. And it would be interesting to hear, like, because we both traveled to Asia, for example, and I think maybe even in like Middle East and stuff like that, cultural these questions about sort of the individual are very different. Like in Japan, and you could say it's for better. There's good and bad. It's just like our hyper individualistic culture. There's good things about it and there's bad things about it. Same thing in Asian culture. It's very much about the family and about the people at large. Um, so in one sense, it would be interesting to hear, like, if you interviewed 100 Americans and 100 Japanese, and you ask the same question, and say they're all baseball fans, ask the same question about Shohei. I wonder what you get. I wonder if it would be any
Yeah.
different. So just different paradigm, different cultural context,
Hmm.
how people think. So, but like for you and I, it's not really even a question at all. Like, no, I wouldn't trade places. It's not, you know, call it selfish if you will, but I think it's also like I mean,
I think
I get
for for me, it's not about selfishness because that selfishness is about the value, right?
mm-hmm, yeah.
Thinking my life
Um,
is really important to me.
mm-hmm.
So I don't want to, it's like I just reject the premise up front. Like it's just stupid.
I mean, you're right. There's so much about the premise up front that is just falls apart when you actually think about it. But anyway, we want to hear your comments below if you feel like it. But I thought that was a very, I read that and I was like, I have to get Adam's input on this
Yeah.
thing. And you didn't disappoint, Adam. It's
It's
stupid out of the box.
it's I mean it's stupid morally and ethically.
Yeah.
Super fun to like as a brain teaser and like what do you
Mm-hmm.
think?
Mm-hmm.
Fun conversation.
Yeah. 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 It's as you break it down, it becomes very problematic.
Yeah.
One from the human level, but also like if you're a person who believes in a higher power or in God, and he's making this proposition, that is very
Yeah.
problematic.
Yeah.
So so anyway, that was a fun little conversation to have. So
That
I
was.
I have been reading it's a different book that's all about baseball and philosophy, and I've been earmarking a whole bunch of stuff. So we're gonna have all kinds of fodder, philosophical fodder that'll be fun to talk about. But this one, I was reading this recently, and this is one of the most interesting ones, at least kind of a philosophically, that kind of stood out as like, oh wow, that's I would never have even wouldn't have even thought about that before.
Yeah.
So it's a good one. So any parting words, Adam?
We want to hear your philosophical ponderings on this question. So make it happen.
Oh
Put them
yeah.
in, put them in the comments or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know.
Yeah. 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 I said the short version of that is if it happened such that Shohei was killed in a plane crash, would you trade spots? That's a simple version. Get as philosophical as you want on that. So
Yeah.
but well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for us this week. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll be back at it again. We'll talk some more philosophy, baseball, life, all that kind of stuff. Having a blast. Season's underway. Probably pick up a few nuggets along the way. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.